Okay, hi, welcome to our Prenatal Alliance meeting. Today we are going to talk about the importance of sound and share thoughts about the gift that is music to support the parents and the pregnancy. I am François Amig, prenatal educator for 30 years around and an osteopath today. And today I have the joy to welcome our special guest, Guillaume Courmont, for these open windows on the wonder of the sound. Guillaume is a musician, vocal, choir coach, music educator, sono-therapist, and longtime advocate of the importance of pre and perinatal life. For many years, he has been part of various events for the National Association for Prenatal Education. As a singer, he has always been fascinated by the powers of frequency. The world will be incredibly beautiful when we know how to truly live, prepare ourselves to bring new life into the world and connect with it, and all consciously use our voices. So Guillaume, before we dive into the pregnancy period, could you tell us about the importance of the sound on our life and health? And what is the unknown power of the sound to sculpt our life and our family?
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for these questions, and thank you for your introduction, François. It's a very important question, obviously. It touches so many different subjects, and at the same time, it's something that is very simple. We all use sound to express ourselves, especially through the voice, mainly through our voice. And so we convey our feelings, our thoughts, our emotions, who we are truly as a being to others through sound, mainly, that is, right? So we express ourselves through vibrations. So there is obviously the voice, but there is also the gestures and all the things that we cannot see that emit some kind of vibration and that others receive. But the most obvious one is obviously sound. And we are all subject to sounds, to ambience. We talk about the ambient sound, right? And the ambience is key to create, to nurture the environment in which we're in. And it directly influences us. You know, when you are in a sunrise, when you are watching the sunrise, you can't hear anything, yet you feel so much going on because obviously you are subject to the vibrations of nature around you. So when we have sound, it's even more obvious. Something that everyone knows about is when we go shopping, because business people, they know about the influence of sound, don't they? They know that if they put some kind of music, it's going to trigger within us some type of desire to get things, to desire more and to buy more. It's something that everyone knows. And why not use sound to do things that are maybe more positive for ourselves, more to elevate ourselves and inspire us? So we use music, for example, as pleasure, as something that gives us joy and something that gives us entertainment. But if we do it consciously, we can do so much more than just that. With sound, with music, knowing what kind of music we surround ourselves with, then we can consciously influence our life to evolve in a different way. And that is what interests me. there's been some studies made, and you probably could talk about what has been proven scientifically already. We know what Ernst Chladni, who is scientific, who studied the vibrations of sound on a sheet of metal with a bow, a violin bow, and noticed how different sounds were making beautiful, beautiful shapes in the air, well, on that metal sheet, that is. And we can imagine how it is really in the air, three-dimensionally. So how much are we influenced by that? That is the real question. A lot of people already know this, how, well, yeah, obviously, if it's in sound, if it's in the air, yes, it's influencing us, but how much do we actually use that in our daily lives? And that is really the key question. We can definitely sing, we can learn to sing. And a good friend of ours that you know as well has said, if you know how to talk, you know how to sing. And obviously, I would go even further than that. If you are using your voice to express yourself, you have the potential to know how to sing. And you don't have to go into opera or to be a professional musician to know how to sing. Knowing how to sing is merely as something so simple. It's actually learning about yourself, learning about how you use your voice, and to learn to listen to it. And once you learn to listen to it, you can start to actually let go of that and try to let it fill your environment and be participating in something harmonious all around you consciously. A lot of people do that without even being conscious about it. But when you're conscious about it, that's when the impact really comes. And everyone feels it without being able to really name it. And that is something magical, that feeling of being part of something harmonious.
Thank you, Guillaume. And as you say, Chladni in the 18th centuries has proven how the sound, in fact, structured the matter. And it was the first time that a scientist make a kind of echoing to what's said in the Bible, that at the beginning, what the verbs and anything has been made without the verbs. And the verbs, of course, with time, we realize it's not just a sound, it's a sound with an intention, exactly like the music. In the music, there is all an intention, there is an idea, there is an emotions. And as soon as the sound is structured, as more the sound is structured, more its power on the matter is strong. So we see immediately already the impact for the pregnant woman that will come. And we can see there that in his book, The Influence of Music Through the Ages, Cyril Scott has affirmed that before any big civilization, there have been big musicians, and the music that have from where the musician have been inspired has literally modulated the kind of civilization that came after, like Handel with the Victorian or Bach with the philosopher. So it seems that the music precede events and precede the construction of things. And so even though we have seen with Masaru Emoto, a researcher, how a sound like "thank you" can change the structure of the water and the structure eventually of the rice, of any product which is labeled with a name. So it's even the sound, but the intention behind. So that goes very far. And how could you explain us how we could enrich our way to communicate with each other, like in a couple or with friends or with our environment, with sounds, to create this ambience you was talking about?
Well, again, huge subjects here. We would have to, talk for hours on different subjects and little details. You talked about many things there. I will answer that question, but first, yes, if we know already that great music really directly influenced ages and periods in time of humans' evolution, how much of an impact of an impact can couple have on their future baby. Even before conception, it's something that people start to realize more and more, how they can already prepare an environment, an ambience, really, so that not only at conception, but also through the pregnancy, and obviously thereafter, the life of the baby will be as harmonious as can be, and ready to thrive and to deal with every little problems or big problems of life, right? We want a strong baby. We want a child that is, I'm not going to go into that, but basically, music directly influence what's going to come afterwards. And that's something that people realize more and more. How can we use, then, to answer your question, how can we use music or sound to have a harmonious, to participate in a harmony in a couple, in the life of the couple, or more than just the couple, and everyone that we have around us, right? To be in an environment in which we learn to convey harmonies and to be able to discern when you need to be emitting, when you need to be firm, and when you need to be listening, receiving. And music does that. Like, I direct choirs, I coach choirs, and I like to work with amateur choirs, people that don't know even how to read music, because they have a much more, generally speaking, of course, much more open mind into what they need to be doing. And what I teach them is that they need to listen to their environment, listen to the sound they make, and it only comes with experience. So that's when you use your voice, learning how to be in harmony with your environment again, when you are part of a choir. But also, you can make a lot of very beautiful musical games with the other when you're in a couple, by trying to make a sound, and then the other tries to make another sound that is in harmony with that. And then you can improvise together, and that's something that's really beautiful to be doing. But you can also do that with drumming. So there are many different ways. You can use a flute if you know how to blow in a flute. Many different ways of doing that. I mean, I won't go into that. But that is key to inspire people to have a harmonious communication. And it's, even when you need to convey something that is hard, that you have learned that, something that is difficult for you to deal with, you don't have to spread around what is difficult for you. But what is important for you to be doing is how you are going to, your attitude around that problem in your life. And learning how to discern what is a positive energy from what is a negative energy will definitely help you to learn how to be in harmony with the other around you, or the others around you, right? So the best way to learn how to do that is to listen to music that is positive. Yeah, it's really difficult to really talk about that subject, because people have likings, and sometimes you cannot go against that liking. But the effect of what the music will do, the effect that the music has, there's no way around that. It will trigger some things and not trigger other things, right? So it could be a negative effect as it could be a positive effect. So you need to know and discern what is good from what is not. But and there is some really good, sorry, I'm just going to finish with that, but there's some really good classical music that is good for everyone. Like there's Beethoven, there's Mozart, there is Haydn, and there's Brahms, for example. these composers, everyone can listen to, and it will be something that will be very positive in their lives. But if you have a hard time with classical music, there are other musics as well. But that, I cannot say, well, listen to that music, that's going to be always beautiful. There's always the pros and cons to every type of music, really.
But Guillaume, you told me once, and it surprised me, and really I like this idea, that your level of expression depends on your ability to listen, and that in fact we can develop our ear. And you told me that less our ear is undeveloped, more we nurture ourselves with very poor and hurting rhythm, poor music, and that's limited our ability to express ourselves. And at that time, you told me about the importance of to come back to nature, to re-educate our hearing, because nature seems to be just built with tons of harmonics, nearly the kind of symphony, something a very, very high level of achievement. It's very strange or surprising to see how the creator of this nature makes something which is so musical. And it seems that if we impregnate ourselves regularly in nature, we can completely re-educate our ability to listening amazing harmonics, and from that be able to express ourselves completely differently. Does I understand that well?
Yes, very true. One key, a key thing to have is curiosity. If you have curiosity for things, then you like learning new things and discovering things, and that usually helps out to actually get to develop your liking for and develop a culture, basically. Learning how to listen really creates a new way to evolve in a culture. Let me explain that. When you actually learn to listen, you actually try to discover the sounds that you probably haven't heard before. Let's pick a very simple example. When you listen to an orchestra plays, you're not familiar from what is an orchestra. So you discover, okay, you know that an orchestra is a big group with a lot of people playing different instruments, musical instruments. And so if you have some curiosity, then you go into, okay, what really are, musical orchestra, music for orchestra? What is that type of music? Okay, so you discover that different types of music for orchestra. And then you discover that there are different types of orchestras. How do we listen to them? There are bigger orchestras, there are smaller orchestras. Then you discover there are smaller groups of people playing together. And so you discover the different sounds that there are. There is the wind instruments, there are there is the string instruments. And then you discover that they have themselves different sounds. There are the lower sounds, there's the higher sounds. And learning this, trying to discover and appreciate this. Appreciating is really also something that is, when you learn to appreciate, you have the inspiration of life. And when you have the inspiration of life, you have everything, right? But that is definitely what's going to bring you to discover the beauty of life, the beauty of harmony, and to nurture your environment, yourself first, your environment, and then prepare for a beautiful child to come.
So to come back to our subject, which is the prenatal life, that's become very important what you said, because science have really established a very strong link between the impact of the music listened during the prenatal life and the state of health, eventually the cognitive aptitude, the ability, the relational ability, and the psyche of the child. And so it's we know that the ear is developed at the start to be functional at the 4 months, but other studies have shown that the first cells, in fact, as soon the beginning of the creation of life, in fact, cells are impregnated from the sounds around, the music. And when they have been exposure to very difficult sounds or certain trauma linked to sounds, even though before the 4 months, they have been effect on the psyche and the health of the children. So be able now to scientifically, and it was there in the tradition, the idea of always protecting the pregnant woman and to put them in a harmonious ambiances. But today it's become really, it has to become nearly a science, an art of living, to provide to pregnant women this nurturement, which is so essential in the structuration of the child. How would you do to help women, for example, who have never developed the ability to listen very harmonic music, very beautiful rhythm and all that, to try to, what tool will you use? I know you talk often about the power of folkloric music, which is very balanced and very easy to restore a good hearing. Could you talk about that to us?
Yes. Well, definitely. I mean, yes, of course, physically, it is the 4th month is very important in the development of the child, but it's much more than that, because it's whatever comes before is important, because that's going to impact the 4th month of pregnancy. Also, what I wanted to say is that we know that sound spreads much faster and much also better in water. And obviously, where is the baby? In the womb, right? In the waters of the womb, right? So it definitely will have, whatever sound there is, whatever ambience there is, whatever vibrations we have, the baby would definitely, it will impact the baby in the greatest of ways. So how can the mother, how can the parents prepare to develop that listening? Well, I work a lot with people who don't know how to make a sound. They know how to talk, but they don't know really how to make a sound. And what does that mean? That means they don't really know. They haven't learned to recognize the difference of the different sound that they are able to make, basically. And the first thing that I tell them is, okay, when you get up in the morning, try to make a sound. Don't make any judgment on that sound. Just make that sound and try to sustain it as beautifully as possible. Just like that. Not even opening your mouth, just a humming sound. And try to sustain it as much as possible. So you need to breathe, but try to breathe with that energy. And once you learn to do that, you recognize that, okay, breathing with that energy, what does that mean? That means that when you come back to the sound after breathing, you need to make it as much the same as possible. If you can't, just try to make it as close as possible. And once you learn to do that, you learn that you need to regulate yourself. You need to learn about your breathing. You need to learn about your energy. And then the more different times that you make that, the more you make that, those sounds, the more you start to recognize that there are different sounds. There are sometimes sounds that you make higher in the morning and some that you make lower in the morning. So you can recognize that sometimes you have a better energy and sometimes you don't have as much of an energy in the morning. And sometimes it develops differently during the day. So if you are able to do that, also, it takes a few seconds during the day to just stop, make a sound, visualize something that is very inspiring and beautiful, like a sunrise, like smelling a flower. And then you just make that sound in a very quiet state, wherever you are. And then, is that the same sound as I made before, or is it different? Is it a very nervous sound, or is it a very low and peaceful sound? When you're able to do that, you're actually trying to recognize your inner state, but not necessarily with words. And that's something that is key, is that you learn to actually feel and understand yourself through sound, with whatever sound, whatever energy you are emitting. And the more you do that, the more you develop that kind of consciousness of being able to discern and recognize those that are conveying a better state and others that are not as a good for you. It's not as a good state. It's not emitting the sound that you would like, or you have much more difficulty in emitting that sound. So the more you do that, the more you are able to actually make other sounds as well, and try to make a melody and improvise, and try to listen to the melody that you make. What kind of a melody is it? So it really is something that needs to come with quote unquote exercises. I don't like to call them exercises sometimes because people will say, I don't want to be working. And for me, it's much more of an inspiring moment, and inspiration is key.
Finally, if I resume, it's like with the food, and knowing that the sound nurture the baby and develop itself. We could say that you can take like junk food, which is more very aggressive music, which is finally not good for you and not good for your baby. So like junk music. And there is to a degree of music, but it's fit against like cane music, which is all the recording coming from the folkloric to the what you call the knowledgeable music, like all the classicals, and or you can use even though harmonious music, which is more modern. But if you start to use your voice, it could be with the type of exercise, you have really fresh food. It's literally like if you use your own voice. And that's become very important because there have been clinical studies that have shown that when you the voice of the father tend to strengthen the lower part of the body, and the voice of the mother, the upper part of the body, the heart, the lungs, and all that, and all the senses. So if both parents do what you said and offer this really fresh vibrance and experience music because it's come from them, with no shyness, with just trying to do like kind of harmony melody, what a treat for the baby, isn't it?
Really? Oh, really? It's so powerful. I mean, imagine, if everybody really knew, if everybody was really making those types of exercises or inspiring moments, right? Just get up in the morning and try to make sounds and try to recognize those sounds and try to, make music, try to improvise melodies. I mean, it's not something that is really easy to a lot of people. A lot of people tell me, how do you improvise singing? How do you know what kind of melody to sing? You must know so much. And I'm just like, no, it just comes because it's an inspiring moment. And I hear it because I'm so used to be singing. I've been singing all my life, so obviously. But the more you do it, the more it'll come. And that's the end of it.
So as you said, at the end of it, we have to end our first meeting. I hope we are going to, it's need to be continued because there is so much to say.
So much.
Just to add, according to what you said, I believe we can use this idea of pronouncing two words, like in a way that don't hesitate to talk with our baby, to tell poetry, a prayer, tell a story to the womb or to your pregnant partner or the mother to the baby. Everything which is emitted with the voice with an intention becomes so creator. So thank you so much for all what you help us to understand today, and I hope we see each other soon to keep going this work. There is so many to say in the details. Thank you so much.
It's a joy to share this, and thank you, François, for this beautiful